Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is loved but not liked by her mother. But before we begin, right, it's a heavy one. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
No, we're not. And I'm still reeling from that little, what do you call them? Little blurbs, little teasers?
Yeah, little descriptions.
Yeah. Only because it like stabs me right in my cold, dark heart. There's no wound like a parental love wound. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yep. It's a big one for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, this is all to say Sam and I are not professionals. We're not trained by anyone about any of this. So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love and family. Okay, here we go. The letter is from Loved But Not Liked, whose pronouns are she, her, who is writing to us from the void. Hi, Sam and Sierra. Has your therapist ever said something to you that physically or metaphorically knocked the wind out of you? In the letter, Sam wrote, yes, exclamation point.
So many times.
My therapist did that this week as we were processing memories of my childhood, as I am the oldest daughter of 4 who often butted heads with her parents. Mid-session, she said, I see you as an insightful, compassionate, and enjoyable person to talk to. Your parents missed out. You would have been a lovely little girl to raise. That comment felt like a blow to my heart as I recalled all messages that I received from birth to now at 24 years old. My parents called me selfish and disagreeable, sometimes using gendered language like bitch to show that they were unhappy with me. Sure, I had my mother's stubbornness and my dad's argumentative spirit, but I was fairly well behaved growing up. You could say I was a teacher's dream, sweet, polite, inquisitive, and academically motivated. At home, I showed signs of depression and anxiety since elementary school, but was determined to keep it under the radar as to not burden the people close to me. By the time I started seeing a therapist in high school, I had suffered years in silence as to not inconvenience my parents by seeking support services. But still, in their eyes, I was their ungrateful, hard-to-love daughter. No better example comes to mind when I, a grown woman, finally got my first tattoo of a flower on my upper arm. Furious, my mom sat me down and said, "Do you have any idea what you've just done? How could you be so selfish? What will the rest of the family think now that you've done this to your body?" To further her point, she expressed to me that she loved me, but did not, quote, like me. I tried to keep a straight face during the conversation as I felt my worst fear come to life. I was only likable enough to be around, but not lovable enough to cherish. What's more, my own mother, someone whose love was supposed to be fierce and strong, admitted she did not care for how I turned out as an adult. Since that conversation with my mom, a deep loneliness comes up when I think about being someone's daughter. That is so hard to read. Sometimes when I visit my parents on special dinners or holidays, I see flashes of connection or acceptance around who I am. Unfortunately, those moments are almost always happen when they've had something to drink. These fleeting moments come just as fast as they go, on the porch, slightly buzzed as we watch the sunset. Only then do I think they see my more positive qualities, like how I can dance like no one's watching, cook a damn good meal, or paint tranquil landscapes in oil and acrylic. Somehow, all of these good qualities don't hold up to the standards they have on how their daughter should behave. I want so deeply to be accepted and loved by my family, but can no longer stomach being called names or being shamed for who I am authentically. This is something I'm working on in therapy, and honestly don't have much more to say on the matter as it is fraught. Parent relationships can be difficult, especially if you have the sense that you're not liked. I would appreciate what you think of the first question and feel a little bit better knowing that you will have read this letter and hold it in your hearts. Sincerely, Loved But Not Liked.
Oh, Loved But Not Liked. Just want you to know that Sierra and I love and like you, and we're so honored that you trusted us with this question. Relationships with parents are so fraught in so many ways, and often our parents, who are supposed to give us love and support and to maybe challenge us sometimes, but also offer guidance and company, are so often incapable of doing that. And, you know, I want to just name for you before we get into anything else that your mother's feelings about you have everything to do with her and very little to do with you. Whether or not your mother is capable of holding you as your own person who is beautiful and wonderful and maybe different from her isn't anything about whether or not you're lovable or likable. It's about her own inability to let go of control, to understand things that may be outside of what she understands, to care for you in a way that actually feels like kindness and love and care. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that she's incapable of doing that. But I don't want you to take that inability and put it on yourself, because it's not yours to fix. It's hers to figure out. And I'm so sorry that you're going through it. It's just so challenging to hear what you wrote about the things that she's said to you and the things that she's done to you, that they're mean. Like that's the only way I can describe them. Her telling you that was mean. And I wish that you had a mother that was capable of being kinder to you. We're going to get into some advice. We're going to offer you a lot more love for sure. But before we do that, we are going to take a quick break.
All right, welcome back, my darlings. I'm probably going to cry this letter, and it's because it's okay. I'm fine. I'm probably going to cry this letter because my daughter isn't home right now. Yeah. She's up visiting her grandmother out of town. And this letter makes me think about the responsibility that I have as a parent to see my child as a wholly flawed and wholly deserving creature, and that she's not put on this earth to heal me or please me. My job is to be curious and compassionate about who she is authentically bound to be. It's not to shape her in any way in my liking, other than to, like, I don't know, be a good person, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so sorry in advance if I cry this entire episode, because there's nothing like a parental wound. Like our letter writer said it. There's nothing like this. There's almost no wound deeper than longing for your parents' acceptance and your love. And you know what's fucked up? You said it earlier, like, you're right, Sam, when you said earlier, like, it's not about you. It's not on you to fix your mom. It's her shit. But unfortunately, it is on us.
Yeah, absolutely. The shit like blows up onto us, yes, unfortunately.
Yeah, especially, and like, I know you're only 24. I don't know if you want to be a parent. I'm going to be talking about my experience becoming a mother. But this is truly about having a relationship with yourself and and having a relationship to the wounds that you inherited from your parent and how they manifest in your life, whether on a child or on yourself or on your partners or whatever. Because you know, my parents' wounds that I inherited that manifest as codependency in me, that manifest as anxiously attached in me, that manifest in controlling behavior in me. It is their wound that was turned into a blade, you know, right? It was their wound that turned into a weapon in me. But now I have to choose whether or not I'm going to turn my wound into a weapon onto myself and onto my children. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that fucked up dynamic of like, it's not about you. And also it is your responsibility to heal this wound for yourself, not for them, not for the broken parents, you know? And I think about like, I think you're a Gen Zer and we're millennials. But right. 24 is Gen Z. Yeah.
I just can't believe you just admitted that out loud. Everyone hates millennials.
But I think that there's a lot of like parenting has shifted a lot since like the 80s and 90s, but it hasn't shifted wholly, right? And it hasn't shifted across the board. And when I read your letter, I get emotional because I think about my child, and how like right now I have a toddler, and the number one thing I say to myself every day is like, this is developmentally appropriate.
For sure, yeah.
When she cries because I cut her bread in the wrong way, this is developmentally appropriate. When she throws herself on the ground because she doesn't like to get her hair done, even though she asked me to do her hair. You know what I mean? Like, this is developmentally appropriate. And when I read your letter, I thought about the fact that, like, teenagers, preteens, tweens, 10-year-olds, 7-year-olds, it's developmentally appropriate for them to be selfish, right? It's developmentally appropriate for young people to be difficult, for them to make mistakes. And a huge part of my own healing when it came to shame I felt about the way that, words my parents called me when I was younger, was not to be like, well, I'm not that person. I'm not selfish. I have all these good gifts and things like that, which are true, right? You're gifted. I'm valuable. You're valuable. We have all these things that are deserving of love. And also, you're allowed as a child to be annoying, selfish, make mistakes, take up space. You are allowed to figure out what it means to be a human by making mistakes. And my biggest job as a parent is to not penalize my daughter for figuring out, in the only way she knows how to figure out, how to be a human. As a teenager, as a 12-year-old, or whatever you are, I know you're 24, but I'm like talking retroactively. Who fucking cares if you were an imperfect teenager, right? Who fucking cares? And I think there is residuals from the parenting generations prior to ours, or Sam and I's generation, and generations before us. There's this residual idea that children are put on this earth for parents to hone and to please parents and to be appeasing to adults. And that just is not developmentally appropriate. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not. And even our own internalized expectation for ourselves in relationships, the fucking foundation of why Sam and I made this show is that we expect ourselves to know how to show up to messy human experiences with absolutely no formal training or direction. You know what I mean? We expect ourselves to be perfect in relationships when we've only seen bad examples of that. I'm getting on a little bit of a tangent, but like that's how deep this wound runs, is that we expect it of ourselves. We expect perfection from ourselves, and we expect it from our children, even though as a 24-year-old, it's developmentally appropriate for you to make mistakes and to do things that your parents don't like. That is within the means, well within the means, or well within your right as a human being. And I think I'm getting so amped up about it because when I had my daughter, I thought I was fucking healed. I'm like, I'm chill. I can do this, and then all of a sudden I see these threads of generational pain that are like tangled in me that I could so easily regurgitate onto her. I could so easily, and I will, I'm guaranteed to, no matter what, right? No matter how hard I try, I'm guaranteed to put some of this on her, but I'm going to try my damnedest to let her know that she's safe to be unlikable, and she's safe to make mistakes, and she's safe to be someone that like doesn't align with my idea of who she should be. You know what I mean? I'm actually like my niece recently just got their first tattoo, and my sister and I had a whole conversation about like letting go of the idea that your children's bodies are yours. Like you bathe them and clean them and like wipe their booties and like, and then one day they're out there just doing anything they want to their bodies. And I'm preparing that now. I'm trying to like, I'm whatever. This is turning into an episode about parenting, but it is about that. Do you know what I mean? Like I can apologize over and over again about how your mom treats you and relates to you. But the core of this letter is actually, how are you going to parent yourself? How are you going to show up in relationships moving forward, and not take that tangled web of generational pain and not put it on other people, but instead start to unravel it and start to heal it. You know what I mean?
I think as you're thinking about what that parenting looks like, it's important to remember too that the way that your mom is behaving right now is also developmentally appropriate for her, right? In her own emotional
because
journey.
She's a bitch. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I couldn't help it.
Because for whatever reason, this is the emotional stuntedness that she has.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. Sam's saying that her maturity is only so high. Her healing is only this is where her wounds are manifesting.
100%.
This is the best she can do, and isn't that sad?
It's sad. For sure. This is the best she can do. And it's terribly sad that this is the best that she can do. But I say that not to excuse what she's doing, because it is still mean and it is still cruel, but to offer you an opportunity to decide what you want to do with that information and to say, this is the best she can offer. And I'm so sorry that this is her best. But you can't hold out for her to somehow turn into the mother that's going to see how beautiful and wonderful and cherishable you are, right? She's incapable of it for lots of different reasons, again, that have absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with her own wounds, her own experiences, her own understandings of the world.
Taught her.
Absolutely,
you know what I mean?
All of that. And so my question for you, and I think Sierra brought this up, is what does it look like for you to offer yourself the parental love that she's incapable of offering, and to, instead of keep going to her and hoping that she'll say something different, she'll behave differently, she won't call you selfish, she won't call you a bitch, which, like, I cannot imagine a parent calling their child a bitch.
That's why I said it.
Right, absolutely. It's just like, whoa, that's a lot. Like, I've seen parents say fucked up things to kids, but I have never seen a parent call their own child a bitch. And so, like, where can you find that love and that tenderness and that support that you need? How can you tell tell yourself the things that you wish that your mother would tell you? Or where can you find that affirmation, that love, that unconditional support from friends, from chosen family, from a mentor that might be somebody that you want to spend time with, right? I understand this loneliness. Absolutely. Like this loneliness that you're feeling at the idea of being someone's daughter, because it's like, you never have been. You've never been her daughter, right? She's always treated you as an inconvenience, as somebody who is getting in the way of her getting what she wants, as somebody who's asking her for too much when she doesn't want to do it, right? And so the idea that, like, you've never been a daughter before is just, like, so real. It's so understandable, and it's deeply lonely. And that loneliness is so profound and so understandable. And that loneliness deserves tending to, right? And that loneliness isn't going to come from your mother, or the salve for that loneliness isn't going to come from your mother. And honestly, there's probably not going to be a perfect salve for that loneliness to go away, right? That's also not the goal here. But where can you find the support and love that you need to be seen and heard and understood to be something wonderful in people's lives, and not something that's causing them to be upset or to be frustrated? And I'm so glad that your therapist offered you this glimpse into what is true about you, which is that you were a lovely child, because children are lovely, right? And even, I don't even know you, but I see the amount of work that you put in to trying to be palatable, not just for your mom, but for your teachers and for other adults in your life, right? Like, you were told a certain story about yourself, and I see how much work you put into trying to make that story untrue. But the reality is that story was never true, and that story had absolutely nothing to do with you. And you are wonderful and capable, and you are worthy of unconditional love from people. And I'm so glad that your therapist offered that glimpse into what could have been. And I want to say to you, as somebody who doesn't even know you, that I wholeheartedly agree with what your therapist said, and that I hope that you find love and support and kindness, because that's all that you deserve. No matter how selfish you were when you were 12, no matter how much you talked back when you were 8, no matter how many tattoos you get on your body, or how often or not often you visit your parents, right? You are capable, or you are worthy of love. And that love doesn't need to have conditions. And I hope that you see that, and I hope that you feel that from me and Sierra, and I hope that you find it and feel it from people around you who are going to be more capable, who are going to be more developmentally done than your mom is, because it's sad that she's not able to, but I know that there are people in this world who are going to want to hold you and see the beauty that is you.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to the tattoo story, like, I think it is a perfect example, because your mom obviously has deep-seated wounds around who her children are and how they represent her and how they validate her existence. You know what I mean? And I'm reminded of something I heard Tig Notaro say on a podcast. She was talking about her step-parent and how they had like kind of a strained relationship. And then after, I think her mother died, there was like this emotional breakthrough in which the stepfather was like, I failed you. And he said that, I realize now that it's not the child's responsibility to teach. I can't even say it.
Oh,
He said, it's okay. It's very profound to me in this stage of my life.
Definitely.
It's not the child's responsibility to teach the parent who they are. It is the parent's responsibility to learn who their child is. And think about the language your mother used about your tattoo on your legally aged body. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
And when we talk about moving through this and we talk about divorcing your sense of identity and sense of validation from your mother, it's about looking to yourself with radical and vibrant self-acceptance and radical self-love. You know, when your mother says, do you have any idea what you've just done? How could you be so selfish? That is so, she seems so weak to me. She seems so fragile to me that her sense of peace and her sense of self is so deeply wound up into what she can control about her children and what her children say about her. Do you know what I mean? And so to combat that, I want you to work on that radical and blazing self-acceptance and self-love to say, do you have any ideas what I just did? Yes, I celebrated my autonomy and my body by adorning it with something beautiful. How could I be so selfish to make a decision over my body in my life? I don't know. I'm going to make a million more. What do you think the rest of the family is going to think? Whatever they want, because tattoos are so common right now. And I'm not making decisions in my life based on what other people think.
For sure.
And it's not about proving yourself to your mother anymore. It's not even about combating these fragile, selfish statements that she's making about your value in her life. It's about finding this deep, deep well and filling it, this well of resiliency and self-love within you, in which your mother can say anything she goddamn wants. And you can say, I am loved, I am cherished, I am valuable, despite your inability to honor that in the way that I deserve and deserved as a child. And that's the cord that is so hard to cut in this situation. And this is why parental wounds are so fucking painful, is because our sense of self is so deeply wrapped up in them. But they have to somehow, like, I want you to start visualizing a world years from now, because it's going to take a long time. But I know it's within your grasp. I want you to visualize a world in which you can go to their house, be disappointed and hurt by something that they say, but you can drive home after that sunset dinner and feel an abundant, overflowing, warm love from yourself, right? And you can pity your parents. You can pity your parents for how fragile their sense of self-love is, for how fragile their sense of self-identity is, that they have to define themselves by other people that they can control around them.
Absolutely. We love you so much. we think that you are a wonderful, thoughtful, compassionate person. And we hope that your mother's treatment of you doesn't hide from you the fact that you are a compassionate, curious, wonderful person. And we know that this is really difficult. We know parental relationships are so fraught, and that there's nothing that can replace actual love from your mother. But we also just want to remind you that there is love out there and you are deserving of it. And whether or not your mother likes you or loves you has nothing to do with you, isn't the marker of whether you are a person worth loving, and that we love you deeply. And we hope that this helps you see that.
We love you so much. Thank you so much for writing, and we hope this helps. All right, y'all. It is Friday, which means we are up to the blind date segment of our show. Every week at the end of our episodes, we like to shout out something that we love, something we want to send you home with. And this week, we are setting you up with
a show on Netflix that I talked about on the Monday episode.
Oh my God, you're cheating.
I am cheating. It's called, I'm sure that you've seen it if you have Netflix, because it's been on like the top #1 watch show for a while. But it is called Nobody Wants This, or Nobody Wanted This. It's a very cute romantic comedy show with Kristen Bell and Adam Brody, as well as like a really fun supporting cast of like people that you know, and you're like, where's that person from? But it's all like very funny and cute. I really honestly did like it. I think it's like, it's a nice story because it's not like there's like huge like fraught things. It's like two people who kind of like each other and then like have things that come up in their relationship and then they kind of figure it out together, which is like really nice. Like it wasn't like, oh my God, they're broken up and like because he cheated or like whatever. Like it just was like each episode was kind of like a moment in their relationship where there was some tension and then they like talked about it or like they did something nice for each other or they did the work to be able to like get over it. And it's just this like, it was sort of refreshing to watch because I was expecting throughout the whole thing for like the other foot to drop and it being like, and then they weren't together anymore, but like they just sort of like progressed in their relationship and it was very cute. It is very like heterosexual, just as a warning. Like it is like
as a trigger warning.
As a trigger warning for people, you know, who may be offended by that. But it was very cute and charming, and like both characters, I think, really grew on me by the end, and I was happy to see what happened with them at the end of the show. So check it out. It's on Netflix. It is called Nobody Wants This, and it's very cute. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to those office hours where we hop on Zoom and chat with our patrons about any questions that they have or things that they want to talk about. But you can go to patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DMs, send us your favorite relationship memes, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original music recording, editing, producing all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his music and podcast and mustache.
Oh, okay.
And remember, as a child, we inherit so many things from our parents. We inherit personality traits, we inherit physical features, and we often inherit our parents' wounds. And growing up is truly about recognizing what wounds we want to carry with us, what's our responsibility to heal or project onto others, and finally realizing that what we cannot get from our parents, we need to give to ourselves. And if all else fails,
just break up.